guys, welcome back to a new Discord bot tutorial. In this video, I'm actually going to continue where I left off in the last video with a warning system. This time we're going to implement a JSON database in our warning system. So if you don't already have this code, please go watch the video on the top right to be able to copy this code and be on the same page. So let's get started. So what we're gonna need is a JSON file, obviously. So let's create that. We're gonna call it warnings.json, and this is actually gonna be an object. And the way I want to store this is I want to have different user IDs. So let's say that's a user ID, and then we'll have an array for each user, and in those arrays we will store other objects. These will technically be the warnings, and we're gonna say who's the staff that warned this person. So this is also going to be an ID, and also the reason for the warning is going to be a reason, and also a timestamp when the warning was created. So this is going to be a date object, so date. Okay, this is what I want the structure of our warning systems to be. So you can now remove this, just leave the curly brackets, and let's get started. So first we will import the file system library. Then we're going to define a variable, call it warnings. This will be JSON.parse fs read file synchronous, and then our warnings.json file. So what this is going to do is it's going to store the contents of the warnings.json file into this warnings variable. So now over here at add, we can actually, where we say write changes to database, we can actually write them by pushing warnings target.id. So this will create a unique property for our member in our object, and this will be an array. And so what I want to do is, if this member has no warnings, that he will not have a property, so we have to create it first. So if no warnings, and then target.id, warnings target.id equals an array. Perfect. And now once we have this array, we can now push the warning object we're talking about into this array. So target.id.push, and let's create an object. And the staff, let's say first specify who the staff is. Well, it's the person who executed this warning command. So that's going to be the parameters message author. We're going to store his ID because again, it's a unique value. Let's also store the reason. This will be our reason variable over here. And let's also store the timestamp. I will do new date. We'll construct the date, and we're going to run the toLocale string on it. So this will basically turn this date, these milliseconds, it's going to turn it into an actual locale string. So it's going to say, okay, well, the time and the date. So it's going to give us the time and the date when this warning was created. Perfect. So now that we pushed it, we can write these changes. So we can do fs write file sync, and then our warnings.json file, and let's do JSON stringify. So now we're going to stringify our object so we can write it into our JSON file. So let's pass to our object warnings null over here, and 4 will pre-print it. It stands for the amount of spaces you want to indent in each line. So this will be 4 spaces. You can also do 2, whatever, but I prefer 4. And that's pretty much it for this fs write file sync command. Okay, now that we got this add command done, we can move on to our remove command. So over here we have to write changes to database. That means since this is an array, we're going to splice at the given index. So let's do warnings target.id.splice, and then the parameters are2, that's our index, and then 1. This will splice one single element at that position, from that position, and then 1. The thing is, arrays start counting from 0, but I want the warning system, I don't want it to start counting from 0. So this is the 0th warning, the first warning, because humans don't really count like that. I would like to start counting from 1. So when we're gonna do that in our check case, what I want to do is when it's gonna say the first warning, but it's actually in position 0. So when we want to remove the first warning, we type in 1, but it's not gonna remove 1. It's gonna remove the second one. So we have to actually do -1 over here. And now let's, after we did that, let's also write the changes. Write file sync warnings.json, JSON stringify, and then our object, our warnings object, null, and 4. Perfect. Now that we remove our warning, let's go to check. So over here at the check case, I want to create a new array called pretty warnings. This will pretty print the warnings array of the target, so it actually makes it readable for the user. So, if someone doesn't have warnings, it will just say this user has no warnings. But if he does, so if pretty warnings, if warnings target id.length is greater than 0, what we're going to do is we're going to set the we're going to display the warning. So warnings target.id, and what I want to do is I want to map, and then let's get the actual warning and the index of the warning that we're on in the map function. And let's do so over here I want to say a warning, let's give the index. So this will be index +1 again, because we start at 0, but because arrays start at 0, but we want to start at 1. So index, it's going to say, okay, this is the first warning, and it's going to say warned by, and then the warning.staff. So over here you can see in the warnings object we have staff, reason, and I want to show all of these. So warned by the staff member, at, then the timestamp. Actually, let me just, so this fits on the screen, at, and then timestamp. Okay, and then let's do line break, and then reason, and we're going to provide the reason. Perfect. So now that we got that, let's do if there are no warnings. So if this user has no warnings, it's just going to say, so over here we'll have to do okay, so be careful, we can't just write this user has no warnings, because this is a string, but over here we define, or rather over here we define that this is going to be an array. And so this user has no warnings, we have to do, this has to be an array. Even if it's just one element, we have to define this as an array. It's pretty simple, like that. Perfect. And now over here at the description, all we have to do is we have to display the pretty warnings array, and then joined by, well, 2 line breaks. That's how I want to have it. So 2 line breaks. Perfect. Over here, actually, I found a couple errors. I believe this needs brackets, but also this is warning.timestamp and warning.reason. I forgot this. Be careful you add these. Let's run the bot. Let's see if it works. Okay. Okay, don't mind these. These are previous attempts. And let's do warn, and then add, and now let's add a warning to internet and give the reason 1, 2, 3, blah 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 blah. Perfect. And now it says a warning was added to internet by internet reason, and then this reason. So if we go here, we're gonna see, okay, we have the user, this is my user ID, the staff, well, also my user ID because I warned myself, the reason is this, and then the timestamp is, well, the time it was created at. As you can see, it's very accurate. Even gives the seconds at which this was created at. Now we can add multiple warnings. So let's warn them again. This time we'll just give the reason, some reason. Perfect. And as you can see, it was added over here. You can see the same staff, some reason, and the time has been updated. Okay, perfect. And now let's warn check. There you go. Okay, so now it says warned by internet at blah blah blah, basically displays the warnings. Now what if we want to remove a warning? So let's do warn remove. Let's do internet 112, and let's remove it at index 2. So there you go, a warning has been removed from internet by internet. And now if you warn check, it should say it only this reason, only this warning should be left with the reason 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Okay, so now if we do warn remove at index 1 and we warn check internet, it should say this user has no warnings. Okay, that was pretty much it for this video. If you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.